My husband's best friend turned out to be his secret lover. Everyone knew but me. I never thought I'd be writing this. Even now, as my fingers hover over the keyboard, part of me still can't believe it's real. My name is Sarah. I'm 26 years old, and 3 days ago, my entire world collapsed when I discovered that my husband Dylan has been having an affair with his best friend Caro for our entire relationship. And everyone knew, everyone except me. Let me start from the beginning, because the signs were there all along. I just chose not to see them. Dylan and I have known each other since fourth grade. He was the boy who shared his lunch with me when I forgot mine, who walked me home when it rained, who held my hand during scary movies. We started dating when we were 17, that magical summer before senior year. Everything about us felt destined, like those romance novels I used to read under my covers with a flashlight. He proposed on our college graduation day, right there in front of our families and friends. I said yes before he even finished asking. We got married 3 years ago in a beautiful ceremony at his parents' vineyard. I remember thinking I was the luckiest woman alive as I walked down that aisle, seeing Dylan's eyes fill with tears as he watched me approach. God, what a fool I was. Dylan is everything a woman could want in a husband. He's funny in that effortless way that makes everyone want to be around him. He remembers the little things, how I take my coffee, which side of the bed I prefer, the exact brand of chocolate I crave during my period. He's successful too, working as a software engineer at a prestigious tech company. And yes, he's gorgeous. 6 feet tall with dark hair that curls slightly when it gets long, green eyes that crinkle when he smiles, and a body he maintains with religious dedication to the gym. We share the same friend group from high school and college. There's Marcus and Jenny, Tyler and Rebecca, Lily and her girlfriend Emma. We do everything together. Weekend brunches, game nights, vacation trips. Sometimes I wouldn't be invited to certain hangouts, but I never thought much of it. Dylan would say it was guys only, or that they were planning something for my birthday. I trusted him completely. The first time I heard about Caro was about 6 months into our relationship. Dylan mentioned his best friend from camp who lived a few hours away. He spoke about Caro with such enthusiasm, how smart he was, how funny, how they could talk for hours about anything. I was happy Dylan had such a close friend, even if it seemed odd that I'd never met him. When can I meet this famous Caro? I'd ask periodically. Oh, he travels a lot for work, Dylan would say. Investment banking, you know how it is. But soon, I promise. Caro wasn't at our engagement party. He wasn't at the wedding rehearsal. He wasn't at our wedding. Each time Dylan had an excuse. Caro was in Tokyo for business. Caro's grandmother was sick. Caro had a work emergency. I suggested we could FaceTime him during the reception so he could at least see us cut the cake. But Dylan said the time zones wouldn't work out. Our friends would occasionally mention Caro, but the subject would change quickly. Once, Jenny started to say something about a funny story involving Dylan and Caro, but Marcus cut her off with a look I didn't understand at the time. Another time, Tyler showed us photos from a bachelor party I didn't know had happened, and I caught a glimpse of someone's arm around Dylan before he quickly swiped past it. The first time I saw Caro was last year at Marcus and Jenny's 4th of July barbecue. I was refilling my drink in the kitchen when I saw him through the window, and I literally stopped breathing. Caro is the most beautiful man I've ever seen in real life. I don't say that lightly or with any intention to be dramatic. He's about 6'2", with the kind of bone structure that photographers dream about. His hair is this impossible shade of dark gold, like honey in sunlight. His eyes are so blue they almost look artificial. He moves with this casual grace that makes it impossible not to watch him. He was wearing simple jeans and a white t-shirt, but he might as well have been walking a runway in Milan. I went outside immediately, excited to finally meet this mysterious best friend. Dylan was standing next to him, and when he saw me approaching, something flickered across his face. Fear? Panic? It was gone before I could identify it. Caro, I said warmly, extending my hand. I'm Sarah. I've heard so much about you. Caro looked at my hand like it was a snake. He shook it briefly, his palm cold and slightly trembling, then immediately stepped back. Nice to meet you, he said, his voice flat. Then he turned and walked away. I stood there stunned and embarrassed. Dylan rubbed my back and said, "Don't take it personally, babe. He's not great with new people." For the rest of the party, I tried to approach Caro several times. Each attempt was met with the same cold rejection. He would see me coming and find an excuse to leave. When we ended up in the same conversation circle, he would go silent until I left. It was like I had personally offended him just by existing. "What's his problem with me?" I asked Rebecca later, after a few drinks had loosened my tongue. She exchanged a look with Emma before saying, "That's just how Caro is. He's particular about people. But everyone else seems to get along with him fine," I pointed out, watching Caro laugh at something Tyler was saying. "Maybe you said something that rubbed him the wrong way," Emma suggested, not meeting my eyes. That night, I confronted Dylan. We were lying in bed, and I could feel him tense when I brought up Caro's behavior. "Why does your best friend hate me?" I asked directly. "He doesn't hate you," Dylan said, but he was staring at the ceiling, not at me. "He literally ran away every time I tried to talk to him." Dylan sighed heavily. "Okay, if you really want to know, remember that rumor in college about you and that guy from your statistics class?" "What rumor?" I was genuinely confused. "That you hooked up with him at that party sophomore year." "That's completely false. I barely knew him." I know," Dylan said quickly. "But Caro heard about it, and he's really protective of me. He thinks you cheated on me and he can't get past it." "But it's not true. Can't you tell him that?" "I have, baby. He's just stubborn. Give him time." I should have pushed harder. I should have demanded that Dylan make his supposed best friend treat me with basic respect. But I didn't want to be the nagging wife who caused problems between her husband and his friends. So I let it go. Over the next 2 years, I saw Caro maybe 5 or 6 times, always at group events, always with the same icy treatment. Dylan would occasionally mention hanging out with him. They'd go to sports games, concerts, weekend trips. I was never invited, and when I suggested coming along, Dylan would say Caro had only gotten 2 tickets, or it was a guy's thing, or Caro was going through something and needed friend time. I noticed Dylan was protective of his phone in a way that seemed unnecessary. He'd take it to the bathroom, keep it face down, change the subject if I asked who was texting him so late. But I trusted him. I was raised to believe that marriage meant trust, that jealousy and suspicion were poison to a relationship. 3 days ago, everything changed. It was girls' night at Lily's apartment. We were drinking wine, gossiping, looking at Emma's photos from their recent trip to Greece. Lily got a text and laughed, showing it to Emma. I was sitting close enough to see the screen, and my heart stopped. It was a selfie of Dylan and Caro in what looked like a hot tub. They were both shirtless, sitting very close together, Dylan's arm around Caro's shoulders. Both were grinning at the camera with the kind of easy intimacy that made my stomach drop. "When was that taken?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Lily's face went white. She pulled her phone back quickly. "Oh, I don't know. Random photo." "That looks recent," I pressed. "Dylan's wearing the watch I got him for Christmas." The room went silent. Rebecca and Jenny exchanged panicked looks. "Can I see that again?" I asked, my voice harder now. Lily hesitated, then reluctantly handed me her phone. The photo was from an Instagram account I didn't recognize. Dylan Caro, Shimmer Adventures. Private account. 847 posts. "What is this?" I asked, my hands shaking. "Sarah," Emma started. "What is this?" I shouted. They all looked at each other, having some kind of silent conversation with their eyes. Finally, Lily spoke. "It's Dylan's private Instagram, the one he uses for his trips with Caro." "Show me," I demanded. Lily logged in. She was already following the account. As I scrolled through, my world tilted off its axis. Hundreds and hundreds of photos. Dylan and Caro at restaurants, on beaches, at concerts, in hotel rooms. They were always touching, arms around each other, hands clasped, Caro's head on Dylan's shoulder. The captions were things like, "Perfect weekend with my favorite person," and "Could stay here forever," with heart emojis. Every single photo was dated during times Dylan had told me he was working late, visiting his sick uncle, at boring work conferences, helping his college buddy move. Every single one. You all knew, I said quietly, looking around the room. You all knew about this. We thought you knew and were okay with it, Jenny said weakly. Okay with what? I screamed. Sarah, we thought you had an arrangement, Rebecca said. Like an open marriage or something. What are you talking about? Lily took a deep breath. Sarah, Dylan and Caro have been together since college, since before you two got married. The words didn't make sense. I made her repeat them, then repeat them again. Together how? I asked, even though I already knew. They're in love, Emma said gently. They have been for years. But Dylan married me, I said as if that meant something. His parents are very conservative, Lily explained. Dylan's dad would cut him off completely if he knew Dylan was, you know. So Dylan thought he could have both. The wife his parents expected and Caro, I finished. They told me everything then, how Dylan and Caro met at a summer internship during college, how they fell in love instantly, but Dylan was terrified of coming out, how Dylan convinced himself he could love me too, that he could make it work with both of us, how Caro had begged Dylan not to marry me, had refused to come to the wedding because he couldn't watch it happen, how they'd broken up for 3 months after the wedding, but couldn't stay apart, how everyone in our friend group had known from the beginning and chose to protect Dylan's secret rather than tell me the truth. We thought eventually he'd tell you, Jenny said, tears streaming down her face, or that you'd figure it out. The signs were all there. I left immediately, drove home in a daze. Dylan wasn't home. He was supposedly at a work dinner. I went straight to his office, to his laptop. I knew his password, our anniversary date. Ironic. His texts with Caro were right there in his messages. Thousands of them. I read until I felt physically sick. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Miss you so much it hurts. Love you more than words can say. Wish I could wake up next to you every morning. You're everything to me. The same sweet nothings he whispered to me, he was texting to Caro. The pet names, the inside jokes, the plans for the future. There were photos too. Intimate ones I won't describe. Videos of them laughing together, kissing, being the couple that Dylan and I were supposed to be. I found hotel receipts, restaurant bills, plane tickets. The conference in Boston last month was actually a week in Provincetown with Caro. The guy's weekend for Tyler's birthday was just the two of them in a cabin in Vermont. The night he was stuck at the office with server issues, he was at Caro's apartment. I could see the location stamps on the photos. Dylan came home around midnight. I was sitting in the dark living room with his laptop open on the coffee table, the messages still on the screen. He saw me and froze. Sarah. How long? I asked. How long? He slumped into the chair across from me. 7 years. Our entire relationship. No, we broke up when you and I got serious. But then what? I couldn't stay away from him, he whispered. I tried, Sarah. I tried so hard, but I love him. Do you love me? Yes, he said immediately. Of course I do. But you love him more. It's different. No, Dylan, it's not different. You're gay. You're in love with a man and you used me as a cover story for your parents. That's not, I do love you, Sarah. You're my best friend. Caro is your best friend. I'm just the wife you hide him behind. We talked until sunrise. Dylan cried, begged me not to leave, promised he'd end things with Caro. But we both knew he was lying. He'd already chosen. He'd chosen 7 years ago. Why didn't you just tell me, I asked, before the wedding, before any of this? I thought I could make it work, he said. I thought I could love you both, have you both. I know how selfish that sounds. It doesn't just sound selfish, Dylan. It is selfish. You stole 3 years of my life. You made me into a fool. Everyone knew, everyone. Do you know how humiliating that is? They weren't supposed to know. We were careful. Not careful enough. And even if they hadn't known, you still betrayed me every single day. Every time you said you loved me while texting him. Every time you made love to me while wishing I was him. It wasn't like that. Yes, it was. Don't lie to me anymore, Dylan. I deserve at least that much. He left that morning to stay with his brother. We haven't spoken since. I've spent the last 3 days in bed, crying until I can't breathe, then crying some more. I've ignored calls from our friends, the friends who chose to protect Dylan's secret over my dignity. I've ignored calls from my family, not ready to explain how my perfect marriage was built on a foundation of lies. The worst part is, I still love him. Despite everything, I still love Dylan with every broken piece of my heart. I understand why Caro couldn't walk away. Dylan is magnetic, irresistible. When he loves you, or when you think he loves you, it's like being chosen by the sun itself. But I also know I can't compete with Caro. It's not just that Caro is beautiful, though he is. It's the way Dylan looks at him in those photos, with a raw, desperate love I've never seen directed at me. It's the way Dylan couldn't stay away from him even for our honeymoon period. It's the way Dylan risked everything, our marriage, his reputation, his relationship with his parents, just to be with him. I've consulted a divorce lawyer. Colorado is a no-fault state, so the infidelity doesn't matter legally. We'll divide our assets, sell the house, separate our lives as cleanly as possible. Dylan doesn't know yet. I'm not ready for that conversation. I found myself looking at Caro's public Instagram yesterday. There are no photos of Dylan there, of course, but there's one from 3 years ago, the day of our wedding. It's just a photo of a sunset with the caption, "Some days are harder than others." Now I know why. I wonder if Caro ever felt guilty, if he ever thought about me, the woman whose life he was helping to destroy, or if I was just an obstacle to him, an inconvenient detail in his love story with Dylan. I wonder if Dylan ever felt guilty when he came home to me after being with Caro, if he ever looked at me sleeping next to him and felt the weight of his betrayal, or if he'd compartmentalized so completely that he could exist in both worlds without conflict. I wonder how different my life would be if Dylan had just been honest from the beginning. If he'd said, "I'm gay, but I need to marry a woman for my family. Would you consider an arrangement?" At least then I would have had a choice. At least then I would have known what I was agreeing to. But he didn't give me that choice. He let me believe I was marrying my soulmate. He let me plan our future, dream about children, build a life on a foundation of lies. He let me love him completely while keeping the biggest part of himself locked away for someone else. I'm 26 years old. I'll survive this. I'll rebuild. I'll hopefully find someone who loves me the way Dylan loves Caro. Completely, desperately, without reservation. Someone who doesn't need me to be their cover story or their safe choice. Someone who chooses me first, not as a consolation prize or a convenience. But right now, in this moment, I can barely breathe through the pain. My husband is in love with someone else, has been our entire relationship, and everyone knew but me. I keep replaying moments, looking for signs I missed. The way Dylan would light up when his phone buzzed. The careful way he'd phrase stories about his time with Caro. The way our friends would sometimes look at me with something like pity. The way Caro couldn't even look at me at that barbecue. Not from dislike, but from guilt. There's a part of me that wants to fight for my marriage, to demand that Dylan choose me, really choose me this time, to make him go to therapy, to work through his sexuality, to find a way to make our marriage real. But I know that's just desperation talking. You can't compete with true love, and what Dylan and Caro have is true love. What Dylan and I have is a performance, and I'm the only one who didn't know I was acting. I got a text from Dylan this morning. "I'm sorry, Sarah. You deserve better. You deserve someone who can love you the way you love them. I hope someday you can forgive me." I wanted to text back, to rage at him, to demand answers to questions I haven't even thought of yet. Instead, I deleted the message and blocked his number. Not because I'm ready to move on, but because I need to protect what's left of my heart. Tomorrow, I'll start packing. I'll call my sister in Portland, ask if I can stay with her for a while. I'll figure out how to untangle 3 years of marriage and 10 years of friendship. I'll learn how to be Sarah without Dylan, something I haven't been since I was 17 years old. But tonight, I'm allowing myself to grieve. For the marriage that never really existed. For the future I thought we were building. For the woman I was 3 days ago who believed she was loved, who believed she was enough. Mostly, though, I'm grieving for the girl who walked down that aisle 3 years ago, radiant with joy, believing she was marrying her best friend. She had no idea that the man waiting for her at the altar was already in love with someone else. She had no idea that her perfect weddings was actually the beginning of the end. If I could go back and warn her, would I? Or would I let her have those 3 years of ignorant bliss? I don't know. All I know is that the truth, no matter how devastating, is better than a beautiful lie. And my marriage to Dylan was the most beautiful lie I've ever been told. Caro won, though I don't think this was ever really a competition. He had Dylan's heart from the beginning. I was just a placeholder, a prop in Dylan's attempt to be the straight son his parents wanted. I was collateral damage in a love story that I was never meant to be part of. I don't hate Dylan. I don't even hate Caro. I hate the circumstances that made Dylan feel like he had to hide who he was. I hate the society that made him choose between his family's acceptance and his own happiness. But mostly I hate that I was the one who paid the price for his cowardice. Somewhere tonight, Dylan is probably with Caro. They're probably relieved that the truth is finally out, that they can stop sneaking around, at least with me. They're probably comforting each other, planning their future, a future that no longer has to account for the inconvenient wife. And I'm here, in the house Dylan and I bought together, surrounded by the debris of a life built on lies, trying to figure out who I am now that I'm no longer Dylan's wife, because that's all I've been for so long. Dylan's girlfriend, Dylan's fiancée, Dylan's wife. I don't even know who Sarah is anymore. But I'll figure it out. I have to, because the alternative is drowning in this pain, and Dylan has already taken enough from me. He doesn't get to take my future too. My phone just buzzed. It's Lily. Sarah, I'm so sorry. We should have told you. Can we talk? I turn off my phone. I'm not ready for apologies or explanations. Right now, I just need to sit with this truth, no matter how much it hurts. My husband is in love with his best friend, and there's nothing I can do about it. The most painful part? Even knowing everything I know now, I still love him, and I probably always will. Blee.